Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing on with Codominance by Curlystar09, and today we are going to be reading chapters 33 and 34. Chapter 33, The Second Raid. The plan was in motion. It felt as if it wasn't actually happening, since they had to act as if there was nothing happening, that they hadn't found Katsumi's location. If the wrong person found out, the wrong message was sent, then their whole operation could be over before it even started. They had been able to contact all of the heroes they needed, but it was all without contacting anyone through the Hero Commission. No paperwork or any other trail that was going on. In other words, until they could prove that Miyahira Yasushi was behind any of this, the operation wasn't exactly legal. They were going in without any sort of backup due to this. Aizawa arrived a few hours into their planning to pick up Akio and drop off his husband. Yamada didn't waste any time asking where he was needed and what they needed him to do. Meanwhile, Bakugou was holding Akio tightly. He knew he had to hand him over. He knew, and yet it was so hard to do.
Make sure he doesn't stay up too late,
Bakugou instructed.
Will do,
Aizawa told him.
He just had his bottle, so he shouldn't get hungry on the way,
Bakugou explained. He was stalling. He knew he was.
Bakugou, he will be safe with us,
Aizawa assured him, placing a hand on his former student's shoulder.
Eri will be with him, and I will be keeping guard.
Bakugou nodded and hugged his son tightly, and kissed the top of his head.
I'll see you later, Gremlin. Love you.
Aizawa took Akio just for Kirishima to rush over. Wait, I want to say goodbye. He scooped Akio away from Aizawa and kissed both of the baby's chubby cheeks. I love you, Pebble. We will pick you up soon.
Am I taking the kid or not?
Aizawa said with a bit of a huff, but his voice had a bit of amusement in it. Yeah, Kirishima said with a chuckle, handing Akio over to Aizawa. The kid was already babbling to Aizawa, already familiar with the underground hero.
Good luck out there,
Aizawa told them. Kirishima and Bakugou nodded, their hands finding each other's as they stayed there, watching their son be taken to a safer place. Now they could focus on getting their daughter home. Time passes. Kirishima let out a sigh as he finished getting his gear on. He was nervous. He hadn't been this nervous before a mission in years. He was going to be waiting by the warehouse where Katsumi was being kept, just a block away, far enough that they could see if anyone came or went from the warehouse. They had to wait for the others to let them know when the raid had started in the other warehouse, but it was up to them when they would be able to go in, a waiting game until he made the call. He wished Bakugou could be with him for this. He needed his partner next to him. It was hard to know that his family would be split apart, but it was the only way they could all be together. All four of them would be home soon. He could feel it.
Hey.
Bakugou pulled Kirishima out of his spiral. Hey, everything all right? Kirishima asked, turning around with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes.
Everything is fine, love,
Bakugou assured him.
Just came to see you before we took off.
Kirishima nodded. He was being paranoid. They hadn't even started. This all ends tonight, right? Kirishima asked. He needed reassurance. Bakugou let out a sigh, rubbing the back of his neck before closing the space between them, his arms wrapping around Kirishima.
I want to say yes, that once this raid is over, we will have our girl. We will go home and have both our kids, and we will never have to think about any of this fucking bullshit again. But I don't know, I don't know what we will have to do after this.
Kirishima wrapped his arms around Bakugou as well, burying his face in the blonde's neck. Don't do anything stupid, he mumbled.
Back at you, Red,
Bakugou told him with a chuckle. They didn't pull away right away, letting themselves melt into the embrace, even if they were still tense. Their son was safe. They had the plan all set up to bring their daughter home. They would be together, all of them, by morning. They both silently vowed that they would make sure of it. With a kiss that was too short, they pulled away. They needed to get started. Time passes.
All right, getting in and out will be very important for this mission,
Ida started, reviewing his part of the plan out loud as he looked at the makeshift map of the warehouse they had. They weren't sure how accurate it was, but it was better than nothing.
I still think that I could rush ahead and survey the warehouse.
That's a bit too dangerous, Uraraka reminded him. We don't know how many people they have in there after all.
You could come with me,
Ida said offhandedly.
I know it makes you a bit sick because of the speed and your quirk, but using your quirk on yourself and holding on to me would give us 2 people inside a lot faster. It would be easier to take anyone down that comes our way.
What would I even hold on to? Uraraka asked with a bit of a chuckle at the mental image of being pulled around by a rope or something similar.
Well, to me, of course,
Ida said without missing a single beat, not noticing the way Uraraka's cheeks turned bright pink. I think we should stick to the original plan. Don't want to cause any unnecessary issues, Uraraka said, trying to stop her heart from beating out of her chest, trying to focus on everything that they were preparing. They went silent, focusing on making sure they had everything they needed.
What do you think about our situation?
Ida asked suddenly. What part of it? Uraraka asked, turning with a curious glance.
It feels as if everything Bakugou and Kirishima have been dealing with has made their relationship move so much faster than a common courtship,
Ida said slowly, which made it clear he was weighing his words carefully. They had no other choice, I guess, Uraraka told him with a sigh. At least they know each other so well, and the fact that they have been pining idiots for so long probably helped. She giggled a bit at the last part. Ida went quiet. What are you thinking about? Uraraka asked, knowing exactly what the silence meant.
I always thought I should wait before doing anything like that,
Ida said.
To be established as a hero, having a secure living situation, a home, and other arrangements. Make sure I have enough to offer on my own accord and not relying on my parents' assistance.
Uraraka tilted her face in confusion. Wait to do what? Ida turned to Uraraka more head-on, puffing his chest out like he did when he was about to give a speech, but he looked nervous.
This may not be the best time to say this, but I've been working hard to make sure I have a future to offer the woman I want to marry.
Uraraka knew she was staring at him with wide eyes and her mouth slightly open, but she couldn't help it. Her heart was beating in her chest so fast as if it was prepared to break, to shatter into a million pieces. Oh, you already know who you want to marry? She tried to sound happy for him. I didn't even know you were dating someone. She tried to laugh, but it sounded empty. Ida took a step forward, putting one of his hands on top of Uraraka's own as he tried to make her look at him.
Ochako.
He tilted her head up with his free hand, a finger under her chin.
I know I've never said anything, but I love you. I've done so for a long time. I've seen the way you act around me, and it led me to the conclusion that you might feel the same. Just maybe, if I were to be so lucky. So I decided to wait till I could offer you the world, just like you deserve.
Uraraka couldn't breathe. She didn't know what to say, how to react to any of this.
I think the more I think about it now, the more I think I've waited too long,
he said with a small laugh, his hands starting to retreat back to his side. Uraraka grabbed his hand before it got too far. Tenya! She called out, her hands grabbing onto his arm, linking to him, making sure he didn't leave. Not now. when the words were right on the tip of her tongue. Do you mean it? She pleaded to know. Do you mean what you just said?
Of course I do,
Ida said, as if offended that she would ever doubt his feelings. I love you too, Uraraka said almost desperately, before adding a bit more calmly. I don't know about getting married, but how about a date? Ida smiled.
Yes, that sounds great.
Uraraka jumped slightly in place before wrapping her arms around Ida. He didn't hesitate to return the embrace, even burying his face in her neck.
I promise to be an exemplary boyfriend,
Ida told her. Uraraka let out a small laugh. Just be yourself. That's enough for me.
I'll take you on our first date once this is over. I know just the restaurant,
Ida said as he pulled away, and Uraraka saw the way he seemed to be already planning everything. Deal, Uraraka grinned. Time passes. Sero stood nervously by the entrance to the agency's garage. They had to leave in 2 groups. Some of the team had already gone ahead, and the others were just waiting till the time frame they had set was met in order to follow. He was in the next group, and there was an unmarked van on the other side of the door waiting for them. Hey, bro, Kaminari exclaimed as soon as he spotted Sero. Hey, Denki, Sero grinned. I'm glad we got paired up for this, Kaminari said as he stretched. Same, it's going to make it so much easier to kick some ass, Sero grinned. I can't believe you guys figured out a whole conspiracy while I was on standby for this mission, Kaminari said with a bit of annoyed huff. You guys always get to do all the fun stuff. Sero rolled his eyes. Yeah, having targets on our heads is so much fun. You know what I mean, Kaminari huffed. Not even Toshi told me what was going on. You blab everything. What do you expect? Sero told him with a bit of a shrug. Kaminari huffed but didn't bother to try to defend himself. Are you ready for this? Kaminari asked instead. As ready as one can be, Sero told him. How wild is it that Kiri and Bakugou have 2 kids? 2? I mean, 1 was wild enough, you know? I've been dating Toshi for what? Almost 2 years? And they are speed running this whole relationship. Kaminari jokes. Wait, how long have you and Mina been together again? Officially? Sero said with a bit of a chuckle. Almost 5 years. Damn, I'm thinking of proposing soon, Sero said offhandedly, checking the time. It was a couple minutes before their departure time. Wait, what? Kaminari explained, mouth dropping open. Why are you telling me? I'm horrible with this type of thing. Mina already knows, he said with a shrug. She just doesn't know when it will happen, but we've talked about it a lot. Dude, Kaminari said, still clearly shocked. Dude, congrats, but why bring it up now? I think I'm gonna do it sooner rather than later, Sero said, a smile pulling at his lips. I don't think I could ever be without her anymore, so may as well make it as official as possible. I'm happy for you, Sero, Kaminari told him with a grin. Let's get going. We need to focus on the mission now, Sero said as he went to the garage. You can't just leave the conversation like that, Kaminari groaned. Just did. Time passes. Midoriya was ready to go. He was just finishing strapping up his boots when Todoroki walked in. Hey, I'm almost ready so that we can go with... We aren't going, Todoroki said with no room for debate. What do you mean we aren't going? Midoriya asked, a confused look on his face. I talked to Bakugou, and he agreed. We are both staying here with Endeavor and the rest of the surveillance team. Why would you do that? Midoriya exclaimed, his eyes wide and even more confused now. We'll still be back up, Todoroki said, not backing down from his statement. Sho, we can't just... You haven't slept much in the last couple days, Todoroki explained. You wouldn't be helpful if... I can't sit this out! Midoriya exclaimed, bottom lip already shaking. Midoriya didn't cry easily anymore, only when he was exhausted. so the tears rolling down his face weren't helping his argument. You will be able to arrive quickly if they need you. But no matter which raid you go to, as soon as they spot you, they will run. Todoroki tried. He was right. A lot of villains would rather run than face the owner of One for All, after all. It was the only solution. From here, it is easier to get to either one of the raids. If you are in one and something happens in the other, you might not make it in time. Midoriya let out a sigh. First sign of danger, I take off. I'll be right behind you, Todoroki promised with a nod. Time passes. Everyone was ready to go. It was getting close to 1 a.m. as Bakugou stood on the top of the building across from their target. There seemed to be movement inside, at least that's what Eijirou said. She had done some surveillance before heading to the second location to help the rescue team. They were going to need her input more than they did, after all.
All right,
Bakugou said.
We are going to start moving soon. Everyone in position.
We're ready, Cellophane said through his earpiece. Ready, Present Mike echoed. Just give the order, Dynamite, Fat Gum said. Bakugou took a deep breath. That was an all clear from the team leaders. He looked around at the deserted area. They had some sidekicks on standby to clear the area of bystanders. He took a deep breath. Just another job, he told himself as he reached up to his earpiece.
All teams, go,
Bakugou said, letting out a couple of explosions from his palms right after he propelled himself forward towards the warehouse. They were making a lot of noise. He could hear Present Mike using his quirk, probably shattering a window or two in the process. All of the entrances were covered, and all they had to do now was clear the inside of the building. Bakugou kicked open the door closest to him, hand already raised as he made his way inside. Charge bolts seemed to have reached the fuse box just as planned, since the whole building went bright. That was going to make everything a lot easier.
Get a move on,
Bakugou exclaimed as he rushed inside with a group of heroes at his heels.
Don't let any of these fuckers get away.
He rushed forward, making sure to clear every corner he passed. The place was big, which meant there were a lot of places to hide. He could hear everyone's footsteps following after him. He tried to stay in the moment, but his mind kept wandering to Kirishima. He had just started the countdown, just a couple more minutes, a half an hour maybe, depending on the situation before the second location was raided. Bakugou begged any fucking god that would hear him to keep his partner safe, that his little girl was okay. He trusted Kirishima, but he couldn't help but feel like something would go wrong. Time passes. Kirishima took a shaky breath. It had been 10 minutes since the first raid had started, and he was itching to move. Earphone Jack told them that there was little to no movement in the warehouse. It seemed like people inside were not aware of what was going on with their allies on the other side of town. She also knew exactly where Katsumi was, confirming the information they had gotten from the woman that had come to them. She had let out a gasp before turning to tell Kirishima she could hear crying. Kirishima had to fight every fiber in his body not to rush inside right there and then. He knew he had to wait and make sure everyone inside thought that they were safe before he dared to move. It was so quiet, it was making his skin crawl. There seemed to be no movement. The place looked abandoned. He would have been relieved if it weren't for Earphone Jack confirming that she could hear people inside. He waited, hearing the others through his earpiece every time they arrested someone, confirming a count that kept growing. The number was already close to a dozen. There had to be a lot more in there, and they were going to get them all, every single one of them. There seems to be more movement inside, Earphone Jack said suddenly, as she leaned forward, as if that would help her hear more closely. They got a message of some kind, but it was probably a text or something, since I didn't hear them talking. They are aware of the situation then? Pinky asked as she shifted nervously between her feet.
I think they are, but they aren't making any drastic moves, Earphone Jack told them. Seems just to be letting the others know something is up.
If anyone starts moving towards an exit, we move right away. For now, we wait to see if they let their guard down, Kirishima told them. If they rushed in now, the villains may run, knowing that they were next. So they waited. Minutes that seemed to last an eternity. The only thing keeping Kirishima sane was hearing Bakugou's voice in his ear every now and then as he gave orders or announced something to his team. Kirishima took a shaky breath and knew they could do it. Their team was smaller, but it needed to move more quickly than the other team. Earphone Jack gives them updates every now and then. Just as predicted, they were dropping their guard. Everyone ready? Kirishima said into his earpiece.
Whatever you say,
Mind Jack told them. Ready, Ingenium responded. Ready, Pinky echoed. All right, Kirishima told them. Earphone Jack will let us know when there are fewer people by the door. We wait for her signal. He got a quick confirmation from everyone and then went back to waiting for a few more minutes.
Go,
Earphone Jack said just above a whisper. The whole team started to move at once. There were 2 entrances from what they had been able to see. Almost everyone was heading to the main entrance while Kirishima headed to the back alley exit with one of the teams. It was closer to Katsumi, and he needed to get to her before anyone knew that they were there. Kirishima ran fast. The others stayed behind to make sure he got out. Hearing almost nothing over their earpieces, the quick confirmations of where everyone was and where they were heading. Even then, he couldn't make out most of the words, his heartbeat in his ears as he tried to make his feet move faster. He turned a corner and then another. He knew he was almost there, but he needed to get there faster. He should have saved her the first time around, after all. He heard others call out. They had cornered some villains. That was good. Kirishima saw the door in front of him. He knew that was where he had been heading, and he heard her before he got to the half-opened door. He could hear crying, a soft whimper. It broke his heart. She sounded so scared. Kirishima slowed down at the door, opening it slowly so he wouldn't startle the infant. As soon as he walked inside, his eyes fell onto the crib where the crying was coming from. He approached carefully, finding a head of wild ash blonde hair and bright red eyes full of tears. She was so small, maybe even smaller than Akio when they found him. Kirishima reached for her right away, picking her up with a soft hush. "It's all right, my angel. I'm here now. We're going home." He felt the tears pooling in his eyes, but it wasn't the time. The way Katsumi was leaning against him, her tiny hands trying to hold on to him, made his heart ache. At the same time, relief washed over him. He had her now. "We're getting out of here," he told her before he reached for his earpiece. "I've got the pebble," Kirishima said with a small sigh of relief. "I've got the pebble, making our way out now." Kirishima started walking out, making sure to check over his shoulder as he did so. It wasn't long till he heard Bakugou's voice on the other end.
"Bring her home, Red. I'll see you both soon."
Kirishima couldn't help but smile as he picked up his pace, rushing out of the building as fast as he could without hurting Katsumi. It felt a bit weird that he hadn't run into anyone yet. But then again, even in a small warehouse, it still had a lot of space, and the number of people inside had been rather small. He had made it halfway back when he heard the distress call. "We need medical assistance! Hero down!" Chapter 34. Ending the raid. "We need medical assistance! Hero down!" Uravati said in a controlled voice, but the underlying panic was clear. Ingenium fought with the villain that had crashed into Pinky at full force. She had gone flying until she hit the wall behind her, falling to the ground limply. Uraraka was kneeling over Pinky protectively. She didn't dare move her, but was able to confirm that she was still breathing. That was always a good sign, but the blood wasn't. Pinky is unconscious, was hit into a wall pretty hard, Uravity clarified as she heard someone asking for more information. Ingenium is taking care of the villain. Pinky is secure at the moment. Uravity watched as Ingenium started leading the fight away from them. She let out a breath of relief, finally able to look over Pinky a bit more fully. "Can you move her safely?" a voice said in her ear. One she couldn't recognize, so it had to be someone from the medic team they had on hold. "Not sure. She seems to have hit her head on impact," Uravity said. "There's blood." "Is she moving at all?" "No," Uravity said, the tears forming in her eyes. She couldn't cry now. She had to focus. Pinky needed her to focus. "All right, we are en route to the location. Make sure the area is cleared of any villains. We might need to bring in the stretcher." Uravity nodded, even though no one could see her. She looked around the warehouse. They had taken out most of the other villains before this happened, so the whole place should be cleared by now. She just needed to keep Pinky safe. Help was on the way. Ingenium was still fighting a good distance away, but still in view. Uravity knew he could manage, but part of her was still worried. She looked down at Pinky, limp and unmoving, trying to make herself stay positive. Time passes. "I need to get over there," Cellophane said over the comms, his voice sounding frantic.
"The medics are already on their way,"
Dynamite told him, but he couldn't help but feel nervous as well. Pinky was down, and there was no way any of them could rush over to help right now.
"Gravity is with her. The medics will get there before we can even get close."
He wasn't sure if this was reminding Cellophane or himself of that fact. "Mi amor," Cellophane said, voice breaking. "I know you still have your earpiece on. Please be okay. Please. I'll be there as soon as I can. I promise."
"Are we done clearing out?"
Dynamite barked. He got a sound off reports of what was cleared and what still needed to be checked. There was still too much ground to cover to let Cellophane leave. He tried to push the thought of what he would do if it was his own partner that had gotten hurt. "The pebble is out of the building," Red Riot announced.
"That's one less thing we have to worry about,"
Dynamite thought to himself as he tried to pick up his pace.
"We are on our way to help,"
Shoto's voice announced, heading to assist at the second location. "We will try to clear the area so that medical can get in there without complications," Deku explained. "Shouldn't take long now."
"Does anyone have eyes on our main target?"
Shinso interjected, trying to make everyone focus on the mission once more. Getting distracted could mean someone else getting hurt. A round of negatives came in. No one had seen Miyahira, and that might be their biggest issue at the moment. Without finding him or even having a way to connect him to any of this, the bastard might end up getting credit for the whole operation. Bakugou wouldn't let that happen. As they continued working their way through both warehouses, they continued updating each other. Bakugou started to grow restless. They needed something, anything, even the smallest crumb. Even if they had to tear both buildings down to the ground, he would find him. Time passes. Kirishima stood with Katsumi in his arms, not sure what to do. He wanted to help Ashido, but he wasn't about to rush back into the warehouse with Katsumi. And he for sure wasn't going to hand her over to just anyone. He looked around to see if anyone was around to help, someone he could send to assist, someone to ask for an update. Katsumi let out a soft whimper, and Kirishima turned to look at her. His breath caught at the sight of big red eyes and blonde hair. "Hey, princess," he let out a whisper to her. "You're safe now. Daddy's got you." He moved further from the warehouse, and once he could hear the ambulance in the distance getting closer, he heard someone reporting that there would be 2 ambulances coming, one for Ashido and one for Katsumi. They needed to make sure both of them were okay. Just by her size, Kirishima knew she must have been starved. She was so tiny, and he could feel her bones, even through her onesie. Not that the flimsy fabric was hiding much. Kirishima removed the cloth around his waist with one hand. It would have to be a blanket for now. "This will keep you warm, Katsumi." Kirishima promised as he wrapped it around her before letting her settle against his chest. He could see the ambulance now, the light blaring. He took a shaky breath. He heard rather than saw Deku and Shoto arriving on scene, working their way inside to help clear the building at a faster pace. Kirishima held Katsumi close, reminding himself that he couldn't follow. Time passes. Sero was shaking. He tried to keep his mind focused on everything going on around him, but it was hard. His thoughts went back to Mina each time, wondering if she was all right, hoping that she was all right. He was almost done with his part of the warehouse, but he wouldn't be able to leave until the whole thing was cleared out. That's when he heard it, a door slamming. Or at least it sounded like one. He looked around the large area he was in, no doors or windows, so how was it possible? He inspected the area carefully, ready to fight if anyone tried to ambush him. He saw the dust on the floor first. The whole place was covered in it, but in one area it was as if a heavy door had pushed the dirt out of the way, but there was only a wall there. "I think I've got something," Sarah whispered as he inspected the wall. "Correction, I got something. We are going to need firepower." There was a very faint line. They had tried to disguise it by making it seem as if it was part of some decor, but it was clear it was hiding a secret entrance. "I'm on my way," Dynamite responded. Sarah tried to find a way to open it, pushing at the wall and other places near it, seeing if moving one of the boxes laying would trigger something. Nothing. He frowned. He didn't have time for this. By the dust that had been moved, the door was just slightly wider than a regular door. He could see the clear outline of it. "What did you find?" Dynamite asked, arriving sooner than Sarah had expected. Sarah placed a finger over his lips and pointed with the other hand at the door. Dynamite understood immediately, signaling for Sarah to stand behind him. "I think this area has been pretty much cleared," Sarah said, a bit louder than necessary, hopefully giving the person inside a false sense of security. "The rest of the building is cleared. That's everyone we'll fucking find." Bakugou raised one hand, pointing at the door. "Sounds good. Maybe we can..." Sarah didn't get to finish before Bakugou let out a direct shot at the door, making a good-size hole. "Come out with your fucking hands up," Bakugou barked. "A little warning would have been nice," Sarah huffed as he took a defensive stance next to Bakugou. They took a step towards the opening and soon realized it wasn't a hiding spot but an escape route. "Shit," Bakugou mumbled. There was a tunnel leading to who knows where. "Time to run," Sarah said as he reached the hole Bakugou had made and opened the door. Both of them wasted no time going into the escape route and running down the tunnel at full speed. It was a tight spot, just enough room for one of them at a time. They were silent as they ran, trying to hear anything other than their breaths and the clinging of their hero gear. They heard the steps first, some distance ahead of them, which was enough for both of them. Someone was definitely still in there. "Move back," Bakugou yelled. Sarah didn't hesitate as he turned around and headed a couple feet, leaving room for Bakugou to use his explosions to propel himself forward. Sarah covered his ears and hoped that the whole building wouldn't fall on them from such a powerful explosion. Once Bakugou had used his quirk to propel himself forward, Sarah started running after him. "We are in pursuit of a suspect. They are in the tunnel. We don't know where it leads. Make sure the perimeter is secure," Sarah informed the others. "Got him!" Sarah ran until he saw Bakugou some distance ahead on one knee. Well, his knee was digging into someone's back. "I got the bastard!" Bakugou exclaimed, turning to Sarah with a feral grin. Sarah peeked over Bakugou's shoulders. There, on the ground, not even fighting against Dynamite, was Miyahira. Time passes. Todoroki and Deku arrived on the scene in time to help clear the warehouse. Ida had already taken down the villain that had hurt Ashido, but there were still a couple trying to get away. They worked with the other heroes on site to make sure no one escaped. When the news of Miyahira's capture came through the comms, everyone seemed to breathe more easily. With the warehouse finally cleared, the medics were able to get inside to find Ashido, rushing her off to the hospital with Uraraka in the back with her. Kirishima wanted to rush over as well, but the medics had decided to do an initial evaluation of Katsumi. "We want to make sure we don't need to take her to the children's hospital," the medic exclaimed as he examined Katsumi carefully. What would that imply?" Kirishima questioned. "It would mean that she would need some type of special medical intervention," they explained as they checked each of Katsumi's extremities for broken bones. Kirishima held his breath as he watched. The medic checked Katsumi's heart and lungs, made sure her eyes and ears were okay, checking everything and anything they could think of. "Get in, Red Riot," the medic said with a smile. "She's dehydrated. We'll start an IV drip and they can do more of a detailed check at the hospital." Kirishima let out a sigh full of relief. He would be able to check up on Ashido. Time passes. Bakugou dragged Miyahira out of the tunnel with Sero. Both of them were quiet as they pushed him along. The man had only said a couple of words, first trying to sweet-talk them, then trying to threaten their careers before falling silent after getting no response out of them. The police car was already waiting outside. Sero made sure to push Miyahira a bit more forcefully than he needed into the back of the police car.
"Are we going to start the questioning tonight?"
Shinso's voice came over the intercom.
"No, let that fucker wait,"
Bakugou told them.
"We are heading to the hospital. Got to see my daughter and make sure Mina is all right."
"All right," Kaminari said. "We will finish here and meet you guys there as soon as we can."
"Let's go,"
Bakugou said, gesturing for Sero to follow. Sero nodded, his heart beating in his throat from the worry. It didn't take long before both of them started running, knowing that they would get there faster by using their quirks. All right, friends, thank you so much for joining me for chapters 33 and 34. I hope you enjoyed this second raid that we've done. We started out with a raid, we're ending with a raid. I can't wait to finish this fic with you. We only have about 3 pieces left, I think. So there's only a couple left, and I really hope that you've enjoyed this fic. It literally is one of my favorites, and I've really enjoyed getting to take this journey with you guys. All right, so I hope that I will see you guys in the next one.